Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to join us today. It is the day of all true things, and also the 60th anniversary. So I hope that you all enjoyed the Kundoke reading that I picked. I wanted to go back to the roots again and pick up the divine principle. I believe it's like the core of our faith, and it's a really great refresher, right? So I hope you enjoy that. I will base my sermon based on the reading today. So it's funny that I'm doing the sermon right now because I have my own small group, and we have been doing it for like over a year now. And I had decided right before doing my small group that, man, I want to reach another level. Like I want to sort of like go in deep, and I want to really work out that heart muscle, right? And do something that's like different. So I was looking through all my books, like pulling out everything on my shelf, and to parents, our spiritual leader has a lot of books, so it was really hard to choose from, and it's I just ended up ending to choose the divine principle, and I love the introduction. It grasps my heart. It's like everyone is trying to attain happiness to avoid misfortune, right? So every single time I hear that, it's like the first line, I'm like, yes. So that's how I chose it, and since I got such good feedback, I went up to Pastor Manoj and I was like, I'm so inspired. I'm like ready to do my sermon, and he was pretty happy. But I made sure that I gave myself enough time, like 1 more month, even though the inspiration hit. And so it was supposed to be last week, and I didn't have, I was like, no, I need more time. So here I am today. So the title of my sermon is Leaving a Legacy of Love. If you read True Father's autobiography, there's a similar title that I borrowed from that book, but you'll see why. So in the Divine Principle Introduction to Kundoke, True Father talks about the reality of the spiritual world, that there is more to life than the physical, material world that we are engrossed living in. In this society, we are highly conditioned, I believe, to focus on the physical and the material success and needs of our daily lives. And however, we often neglect our innermost needs and growth and wants. And we forget to take care of our spiritual body. Actually, we forget that we even have a spiritual body, right? So every day, we go through the daily grind. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, maybe you have kids, so you have to, actually this is family service, so I'm sure most of you have kids, and you gotta get them to school, wake them up, and it's hectic, it's chaos, right? And then you're always like giving and giving and giving to your needs, to your children. You sort of forget to take care of yourself too. And then you go to work, you work really hard, you come back home, you cook dinner, you clean the house, and then maybe time for bed after putting the kids back to sleep again or something. But, where does that part of taking care of myself, my spiritual body, come to play in that daily grind? So if you're somebody that's younger, then we also have, as you grow up, we have things that we you need a roof over your heads? Am I just doing this every single day, just pushing myself and being stuck in this, routine? Is there anything exciting in my life today that is different than yesterday? Or is it always the same constant motion? So, if there is a spiritual world, then you know that you also have a spiritual body, and we have to take care of that. And our culture really blinds us to what is truly real, which is the spiritual world. Because the reality is, life is short. It is temporary, and it passes. And when we pass away, that is what is the beginning of the real life, right? Because if we have an eternal body, then after we pass away, we still continue to exist. So we have to take care of our spiritual body. We have to remember that we have it. So I want to read a passage from the True Father's autobiography. He says, "We cannot talk about life without also talking about death. We must accurately understand what death is, even if we do so only to understand the purpose of life. The type of life that has true value can be understood only by the person who finds himself in a difficult situation when death appears imminent and he cries out to heaven in desperation, pleading to be allowed to live even just one more day. If our days are as precious as this, how should we live them? What are the things we must accomplish before we cross over the boundary line of death?" So, I love that he says, when we accurately understand what death is, we can understand the purpose of life. So, I don't mean to bum anybody out. I see a lot of gloomy faces. But actually, this is only natural, right? So, true parents are spiritual. And he says that his teaching is that, once, you're being, God thinks of you, and you're in your mother's womb, that's your first stage of life. Then when you come out into this world, that's the second stage of life. And you have this physical world that you're living in every day, right? But when we pass away, we also have a spiritual life. So, but if we always have a spiritual body, then, it's always existent. Since God thought of us, we have spirit. And it continues. So if we just focus on today, like every single day, what we're going through, then you forget that there's more to life than this. That life continues. There's something more. So maybe you may be wondering, or you may not be wondering, how I got here today. It's actually really not typical for, I guess, somebody my age to be standing up here and also working full-time at the church. A lot of people actually, go to get a professional job after they get a degree in college, and you want to be successful, make some money, and you want to be comfortable with life, right? But I actually know and had a deep experience that there's more to life than just that. it was really difficult for me. I actually really, so struggled, and I always sat in the back of the church during the camp service, and all the kids knew that I wasn't not the good girl, but I wasn't somebody that went to church every single week and did Sunday, and I was actually pretty far removed. And I was against a lot of our, everything about this church. I hated it. So, how did I get here today from that point, right? I hated it. And, but I sort of I still was just, going because my parents wanted me to, and then I'm sure they struggled with me a lot. So I think one summer, because I was such a troubled kid, or anyway, it caused a lot of pain to my parents. So they were like, okay, the solution is, right? Maybe they had a discussion with each other, and they're like, okay, we're gonna send her to Chunkyang. We're gonna send her to Chunkyang, and then she'll be okay. And I think so. That's a place where we have there's workshops so that we can grow spiritually. That's what Chunkyang is, right? So you learn how to identify who you are, and anyway, it's a workshop or education. And I was like, all right, I'll just they're flying me out, and it's actually a 40-day workshop. But my dad was like, you know what? You can just go for 20 days. 20 days, or I'm sorry, half the time. Half the time you can go. And I was like, okay, 20 days. But then he was like, 21 days. It has to be a significant, holy number or something. So I went for 21 days, and I kept a journal. I always keep journals. And so, you can see that, from day 1 to day 21, it's this, crazy, emotional roller coaster ride, right? So day 1, I'm sleeping on the floor. It's hard. This place sucks. What am I doing here? Who are all these crazy people? I want to be hanging out with my friends. I want to, what am I doing here? But I think I don't know. So some time had passed, and I flipped through. In order to prepare for the sermon, I was going through my journals also, because I kept all my thoughts and my feelings throughout my experience there. And I think during some part of it, I had all of a sudden changed my mind, and I was like, you know what? Let me be open-minded. I'm here for X amount of days, and I'm stuck. I can't get anywhere. Why don't I just give it a try? Be open you know, I sort of messed up again in college, and then I thought that it was like hopeless. You know, if I found God, and then I messed up again, what a slap in the face to God. Like, you know, I was like really ashamed of myself. I didn't kill anybody or anything, but you know, like, I'm hard on myself, so even the littlest things. And I just, you know, decided, you know, why try anyway? There's no point in trying. It's not, you know, I already messed up. So I went, and so I lived like a very, very careless life. And I just, you know, was like, you know what, let me think about all the things that how I should be, or what I should be later. I'll, you know, take care of myself later. Right now, I just want to have fun. I just don't want to worry about anything. I just want to, you know, I don't want to have to think about the blessings, or like being perfect, or like being like something that I had a hard time achieving to be. So, but then, you know, I think maybe many of you know, maybe you don't, but you know, my father passed away a couple years ago. All of a sudden, and he was only 53 years old. So if you look around this room, maybe that's, you know, sort of the age group. But it was too sudden, and you don't expect it. And I had 2 jobs, and I was working really hard at the time, and then going back to school. And I was just, you know, like I was doing school full time and a lot, you know, the job, and I was just busy trying to like get my life back together. And even the day, except for the day that my dad passed away and the day of his funeral, I kept going. I still went to work. And they're like, should you be here right now? You know, like, it's okay. And I was like, I have to be here. And I still went to school. I just, you know, I just had to keep moving. And I was sort of like looking through my journal again. And I was like reflecting on some of the entries of that day, and it basically said, you know, like, I feel numb. I don't feel anything. And my dad just passed away. And I felt nothing. And I was like, that is something to think about. When something crazy like that happens, and you don't even feel a thing. So, I think one day, you know, like, so just a couple days later or something, I was still going to school, but this one particular day I was like, I don't feel like it, I just don't have the energy, and I'm just gonna go to Barnes & Noble, it's close by, and just like, sort of take a break there. And they have this like awesome section of like journals. So they have all these amazing like inspirational quotes like on the cover and stuff. And then one of the journals that like sort of popped up in front of my eye was the Serenity Prayer journal. So if you're familiar with that, it says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That I cannot change. The courage to change the things that I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. And I'm sitting here and I was like, accept this, you know? How can you accept that you will never see your father's face walking through that door again? Or that he will say, I love you. Or just to like see, you know, just to see him and feel him. But can change. And I had this like feeling where, you know, now is the time I need to grow up. When something like that happens, you know, everybody still goes on. Your life stops, but everything around you just keeps going. And you can't stop there. Society does not allow that to happen. You just have to keep going. But I wasn't okay. So, it's time for me to grow up. If I die tomorrow, how can I live my life so proudly, so deeply, that I will be happy? Like, I won't have any regrets. How can I live my life so that I'm not disappointed in myself? The day that my father passed away, it was True Children's Day, which is my mind and I mixed up the holy day today. But it was True Children's Day, and he was, there's like this long uphill, and I guess he was walking really fast. So anyway, True Father, our spiritual leader, had asked all the VIP leaders or something for a special gathering for Hundoke, which is, sort of giving spiritual words and guidance to all the members. And so my father went. I don't think even my mom was allowed to go. So none of us were there. He just left. And he passed away on holy ground, right? But it was amazing because in True Father's presence. But what was amazing was that when he passed away, his hand clutched like this, grasped onto something. And apparently it was a picture of true parents. And I was I was really, really, really upset, because he also had a picture of our family picture in his wallet. So, at the last moment of your life here on earth, what makes you hold a picture of true parents instead of your own family? And I was upset. I could not, Daddy, what the heck? How could you, not forget about us, but yeah, how could you think like that? Who are these true parents? Who are they? What is it about true parents that makes them so special? And I couldn't understand. So I asked why. I started to ask, I had to ask all these questions. What is the meaning of life? What am I doing here and now? If we're going to pass away anyway, and there's, then what is the purpose of my life? And does God even exist? Is there even a spiritual life after you pass? Is there? All those questions, which I think it's actually in the introduction of divine principle also, and I feel like it's redundant or something, but actually it's true. You have to ask those questions. You have to ask those questions to find out the truth, right? So I asked them, and I was serious about finding the answers. I'm going to read part from his autobiography. He says, again, the type of life that has true value can be understood only by the person who finds himself in a difficult situation, when death appears imminent, and he cries out to heaven in desperation. I was desperate. That was my desperate moment. about the blessing. You don't have to go now, why don't you just think about it? Please, can you just go? And I've been saying no, I don't really want to get blessed, it's not for me right now, maybe later, right now's not a good time. But, you know what? It's one of the things that he asked me to do, and I wanted to honor that. And so I went. And thank God I went, because it was a turning point for my life. Again, right? Because love and them, but a deep one that was impactful this time. I had a couple of friends that went with me who were also sort of going through like life-searching experiences, and they were talking to me, and they said that they were going to Chongpyeong to get some education, right? For a couple of months, for 3 months, and I was like, whoa, you're crazy. And, I decided to change, at that workshop, I decided to change my life around. And if I'm going to change my life around 180 degrees, completely, and I needed to step away from my environment, you know, I need to take myself to a different place, then I'm going to go back to the place where I first met God. And I had friends that were going. But so I made the decision to go. I knew that if I was searching for truth and I had once known God, then that would be surely the place. So I was so desperate that when I went there, I asked a lot of tough questions. If something did not make sense to me, I questioned it. And I, thought with people. not physically, just, like theories, right? I did everything I could to not just take everything as truth, but I had to make it my own, right? So if you don't actually have an understanding of truth, then, deeply, then it's only conceptual, right? So I did my homework, and I prayed every single day, and I read, and I studied. I studied and I questioned. And because of that, I was able to find truth. So there's another passage in the autobiography that I must read. Everything in the world will eventually pass. The parents we love, the husband or wife we love, and the children we love will all pass away. All that remains with us at the end of our lives is death. When a person dies, only his legacy remains. Please consider for a moment what you can do to show that you have lived a life of value. The possessions and social position you have accumulated during your life will pass away from you. Once you cross the river of death, such things will have no meaning. Because we were born in love and lived our lives in love, love is the only thing that remains with us when we are in our graves. We receive our lives in love, live by sharing love, and return into the midst of love. It is important that we live in a way that we can leave a legacy of love behind us. True Father also teaches that when we are living, in this world, right, the currency here is like money. So the way you live here is money. That's how you survive. But when you pass away and you go to the spiritual world, the currency there, he teaches, is love. So if we do not practice this in our daily life, if we don't say hi to our next door neighbor, if we don't reach out to somebody and say, are you okay? the air we breathe, if we don't practice that now, we're not going to be able to survive there. So don't get tricked by the illusion that the only thing that's important is just now, living for now. There's more to that, more to life than that. And the only thing you leave behind is love. When you pass away, when people think of you, it's how much you love them. You remember how they loved you, right? So I was lucky enough, and actually, grateful that I have my own legacy that was left for me of love from my father. It's a letter, and I don't know how many opportunities you get that, but if I was to pass away tomorrow or at any moment, and I had one thing I wanted to leave my children behind or my loved one, before I pass away, this is the way, this is what's important in life. Remember this. It's all written in here. So this has been my guidebook, my guideline in life, and I just want to share. Also, as I said before, after I first found God, I sort of, crashed and burned again, right? And then I was struggling to just make it, just live through each day. And I had called my dad out of all the desperation. And this is the letter he wrote to me after that moment. So he says, "Dear Niina, I'm glad you called last night instead of holding it inside yourself. Please don't be afraid to call it out anything. I think you are realizing now that your life is your own responsibility. It's not like when you were younger, when you had to do what we said. We hope that you can learn from our guidance and direction. But now a lot is up to you to guide your own life in the right way. We are still here to support, advise, listen, push, and pull. When we were talking last night, you said that after going to Chungkyung, you changed your mind and wanted to be a member of this church. So I asked you why. The reason I asked is because I think it is important for you to reflect on this issue deeply. It doesn't work if you do it because of us or other people. It works if you have a conviction. If you feel strongly about something, it is so close to your mind and your heart that it is a part of you. Then there's not much, if anything, that can sway your faith. One thing I picked up from you is that you know how real the spiritual world is. You saw it. Therefore, you can't ever let go of that. Me too. This is one of my strongest convictions. It is not a belief that implies some doubt. I know it. I've had too many experiences for any doubt to exist. So make a note of it and remind yourself regularly. When I joined the church, like you, I was in college, but unlike you, God was very vague, and I wasn't really sure about his existence, even though I believed in God. I too was doing many things that were not good for my faith, but I couldn't find the strength to change. I was also extremely depressed because I was realizing how hopelessly selfish the whole world was. But I learned that when I started to pray every single day and reading the Bible, that was when God could really start working in my life. That was when I could quit all When I heard the divine principle, it was the first time that everything became so clear about God, about spirit world, about Jesus, about history. I finally realized that without a doubt that God was real and that he was desperately working to restore everything. For you, having been growing up in this UC family, maybe you can't understand how deeply moving this realization was. But there is no one on this earth, and no religion, and no philosophy that can clarify life so thoroughly and logically. As much as people dismiss religions, and religious leaders in particular, everyone has this nagging in the back of their mind, searching for an understanding of life. It was that same nagging that God used to lead me to Father and Divine Principle. Remember that you are both spirit and body. They work together, and you grow stronger together. A healthy spirit makes your body stronger and lighter, and doing good things makes your spirit lighter also and stronger. Eating good food, getting fresh air and exercise, and will also make your body stronger, and also will make you more positive. In the same way, your spirit needs prayer and truth every day. That helps give your mind more control over your body. So like I said yesterday, schedule a time every day to pray and a time to read. And he said, make it a priority. A priority. Lots of exclamation points. Learn the divine principle deeply, especially chapter 1. It is the key to understanding everything as well. I find it easiest to pray when I am walking, but that's just me. I tend to fall asleep if I'm sitting comfortably. I hope you guys are awake. Please don't delay even one day. Even one day, we shouldn't delay this. And another point I want to make. Many times the church leaders in the church, or the church itself, drive me nuts. And I could, and sometimes do, complain all day about it. But I'm not here because of the church. I am here because of my conviction about the essence of the divine principle, of the truth. My conviction about Father. I say essence because the book is not the truth itself. It is only an explanation and discussion of the truth. In the same way, in some ways, the truth is actually unexplainable. And some examples may be wrong, and some explanations given may be illogical, but that should not take anything away from the truth itself. And the leaders make mistakes, and the church makes bad decisions, but none of that has anything to do with the truth and with who Father is. So I pray that God will visit you and touch you. And touch your heart. You are very precious to us, and you're more than you can imagine. Sorry, I couldn't do a better job. Oh, Dad. So, as your father and my father also talked about, this reality of the spiritual world, I just want you to remember that there is more to life than the immediate here and now. physical and the material comforts and wealth that we also always try to achieve. There's more to life than that. So find it. Be desperate about life. Remember that you are both spirit and body. Read some spiritual words. Pray, meditate, do anything. Do anything regularly. Religions and people will continue to make mistakes and commit sins because their faith in God is merely conceptual. Right? He talked about when it's only conceptual and we don't really know God, we can't love one another because we don't see the true value of each person. So you need to have a conviction which doesn't have any depth of the truth, and to know God, to really get to know God, have a relationship with God. And only then can we truly live a life and live in a world where there's genuine brotherly love and leave a legacy